What was your "is this bitch serious" moment? A customer came to pay for some lessons and I swiped her card upside down so I had to swipe it again. She caused a scene stating I charged her twice. I just sat there with a monotone. I only charged you once. Every time she took a second to breath. I worked at arcade, bowling alley combo that served food like a full restaurant. My position had me deliver the food and take the dirty dishes to the back. So, there's a group of like 6 people bowling and they ordered our sampler platter that had a little of everything from the appetizers menu. I bring this platter out and set it down asking if there was anything else they needed. Without really looking, this woman says, "We're good." I begin to turn around and this woman grabs my arm and yanks me towards her like I was her kid and says, "Where the fuck are my chicken wings?" In disbelief of what was happening, I paused looking at her, then the platter, eventually saying, "They're right there, ma'am. In this little basket on the platter." She lets go and with a skeptical expression says, "Okay." As if she really didn't believe the wings were there. If I didn't hate working there and my shift was any farther from being over in 10 minutes, I would have spoken to a manager. But I didn't care enough to stay to get it sorted and just wanted to leave. A woman claimed to have left her money at home while I was working one day after she ordered 2 sandwiches. They take about 10 minutes to cook. I said that's okay. When you come back they will be ready. She said she wanted the sandwiches first and that she'd be right back after she and her daughter ate because they lived right around the corner. I said if you live right around the corner you'll be back before the sandwiches are done, but I can't give you food before you pay. She lost her shit on me. It was wild. She left with no food and didn't come back. Edited changed preferred to ordered asterisk. 20 years ago. Girl tried to fight me in a bar. All I did was look at her funny. Unintentionally. I was going to the bar for a round of drinks and forgot the order. Happened to be looking at her when I was lost in thought. Anyway, she challenged me outside. I couldn't believe it. I'm 6'1", and she was small. Anyway, the bouncer heard her and kicked her out. She was still in the sidewalk an hour later when we left. Followed me to my car pushing me and punching my back. It was surreal. Used to work at Disney World. It's 9 a.m. and a lady comes into our guest services demanding a refund on her turkey leg because it tastes weird. We ask her details to process the refund. Turns out she bought it 3 days ago and was carrying it in her bag since. When I walked into the apartment I shared with a friend. And it was covered in vomit because her dog ate a pillow and had puked it up. 2 days earlier. The living room was covered in dog puke and she had just sat there in the middle of it. She thought it was funny. I called a moving company on the spot and arranged for the first appointment they had. And put my stuff in storage while I found a new place. That was my last roommate. I just had one yesterday. I've been going to my local high school's running track to jog and exercise since lockdown. Well, to park your car you have to go through a driveway that's designated with arrows as one way. There's an exit on the other side of the parking lot. Anyway, the soccer moms in town are notorious for parking their cars in this driveway and making it hard to get into the actual parking lot. As I pull into the driveway, one of these women thinks that it's a brilliant idea to put her car into reverse as I'm entering. I couldn't swerve out of the way because there was an SUV parked right at the mouth of the entrance taking up half the available space, so I reacted and honked my horn. She proceeded to panic, throw the car into drive and run it into a small boulder that lines this driveway. It ripped the passenger side air deflector clean off. According to her, I'm now a fucking asshole that honks her horn for no reason. A customer once sent back her steak tartare because it was, and I quote, severely undercooked. I work in a somewhat popular restaurant. Fast casual style. Think Chipotle, Panda Express, Panera. And it was my first shift as a line cook by myself. I had already worked in the kitchen and can do every position there. But it was my first time doing it by myself. Well, it was a busy night for us. And we were short-staffed. By the time we had slowed down, I had been exhausted and hot as hell. I had been standing over 8 burners for about an hour and was taking my lunch. I sat in the office and the AC was blasting and it was well needed. My coworker who was cashiering that day. And she took her lunch 15 minutes after mine started. She saw me in the office and demanded I get out of her spot. Told me being a cashier is harder than a line cook because she has to deal with the public. When I told her I wasn't moving, she told me to fuck off and was a bitch the rest of the night. It took about everything in me not to slap her, but instead I told my coworkers, who told the mod. And soon after she was fired for stealing. Had a new boy in the office who had no idea of what personal hygiene consists of. Not a great start. He was loud and obnoxious. Not even good at his job. Then one day, at the smoking shelter, he starts talking about catching rabbits in traps. He's pointing to the fields around the building and saying he's going to ask for permission to put traps out there. We laughed. For all the shit he talked. Not one of us took him seriously. When we go back inside, he heads straight to the cubicle of our office manager. This cubicle is adorned with pictures of rabbits. Some are her pets. Some are just rabbits she thinks are cute. She has statues. Rabbit pens and pencils. Nobody in their right mind would have asked this woman in this cubicle about going trapping rabbits. He did. I was surprised he made it to the end of the day. I was not surprised when he didn't return the day after. A couple sat down at the movie theater 15 minutes into the movie. The lady sits right beside me and is holding a full conversation at full volume with the man barely acknowledging her. I politely ask her to lower her voice as it is distracting. She stares forward for 2 minutes before leaning over. Maybe if you weren't listening to my conversation, you wouldn't be distracted. I was too livid to even respond and the movie was ruined. Edit. The movie was Wonder Woman. I have definitely gotten employees for jerks at the movies. But I felt like I might punch this lady if I looked her direction. Either way, she did lower her voice after that. There was a girl in my class who was such an idiot, and she would outwardly disrespect the professor all the time. This one time while the professor was talking, she started to whistle. He stopped class in disbelief and asked her why she was doing it and why she was being disruptive, and she said it's a thing she does without even thinking, and then whistled again and was like, "See." Ex-girlfriend got her friend to send, "Stay away from armrest fulcrum" messages to my colleague and then denied all knowledge. No pet out of that one. My sister's mother-in-law opened up all her wedding gifts and packed them away while she was on honeymoon. It's been 3 years since, but I'm still mad thinking about it. When a customer accused me of making her come back for her prescription refills every month when we were restricted to fill 1 month of medications at a time. No exceptions. The government made everyone aware of the restrictions and people still got upset, but that took the cake. Someone asked if I could break a $100 bill in pennies. I just looked at her. Looked around to make sure I was definitely not currently working in a bank. It was a bakery. And said sorry. On multiple occasions I've had mothers try to leave their kids with me because I'm in childcare. I literally have to stop telling moms I'm a nanny because I end up getting a strange baby plopped in my lap. The worst was at a park. I was chilling and reading. A mother sits next to me on the bench with her baby. We start chatting a little. "Oh, your baby is such a cutie." Stuff like that. This bitch stands up, places her baby in my lap, diaper bag next me and says she'll be right back. Didn't ask. Just put her baby in my lap and walks away. The time this mother yelled at me for saying excuse me. Her and her family were taking up an entire bike path, including the shoulder. Instead of cutting through them, I moved onto the shoulder and cheerily excused myself as I passed her. Didn't touch her and she didn't really have to move since I managed to squeak by. Yet as I passed, she started screaming a bunch of shit. Well, she did not expect me to come to a screeching halt and ask if there was an issue. She promptly hid behind her husband and wouldn't even look at me. All that energy for what? I have worked at Spirit Halloween every season for the past 5 years. I would highly recommend if you're trying to make some spare cash. Anyway, super shady things happen at Spirit Halloween all the time. So I have endless stories to tell. For this story, I was working the dressing room. Basically just regulating who goes in and taking costumes out of the bags to withhold accessories, to prevent theft, etc. This was my first year working there. So I was about 20. Just a couple days before Halloween, a girl around my age came to the dressing room with a typical college girl costume. That's all I'll say. She says something like, "Oh good, we're about the same size." I'm in a rush so I wouldn't have time to find an associate to help me. I just kinda smiled and took the bag from her. Like what the hell does that even mean? I unpacked the costume, leave the accessories, and put it in a basket to carry to the dressing room. She looked really confused. So I just asked her to follow me and I'd get her a dressing room. I wish I was making this shit up. But this girl says to me, "Why would I go back there for you to change?" I can't even remember exactly how I responded because I was so confused. But it was something along the lines of, "You try on the costume yourself so you know how it fits you. An associate doesn't do it for you." And this girl had the audacity to be mad at me for saying that. Her response was basically, "Well, I don't want to have to get out of my clothes and change into the costume, so it isn't worth my time." That's so unsanitary to have a bunch of people trying the costume on instead of you just doing it. So I don't even want it anymore," followed by her storming out. Removed my comments about pay because for some reason people are getting defensive about my belief that the wage is acceptable for the amount of effort put in.